Human creativity comes in many forms. We are innovators, inventors, craftsmen, and of course, painters. In this video, we'll explore the use of paint as one medium of human creativity. Paint has been used by humanity for thousands of years to depict everyday life, to express personal creativity, and to show off status. Paint is basically a pigment that is put into a liquid base or binder, and it's sometimes finished with additives to change the performance of the final paint. Evidence of the earliest use of natural pigments dates back a whopping 280,000 years ago. Natural pigments were ground from rocks and minerals like red ochre, black charcoal, or white clay. The binders used could have been egg or water, blood, or even urine. The use of paint was for wall paintings, for body adornment, and later on for painting objects like pottery or figurines. Why did we do it? The earliest cave paintings date back to around 70,000 years ago. The content of cave paintings were usually animals, human forms, and simple patterns. But the reason why they painted them is somewhat unclear. It could have been to tell stories of their everyday life, to perform rituals, or to experiment with creativity and personal expression. We can, however, infer meaning based on later civilizations for which we have more evidence. The trend of painting on walls continued with the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians. In Egypt, painting of stories were not just to record everyday life, but to make a point to the observer and the community of the person who commissioned it. A great leader wants to commemorate their greatness in art form by smiting enemies, killing animals to show their strength. Also, stories depict things like what happens in the afterlife and the journey that the soul has to go through in ancient Egypt. Stories will often depict great triumphs in war, but they will rarely depict failures, which is quite interesting. What is this human need to tell our own stories? It partly helps us to recount our lives and find a sense of identity. It can help us to process challenging experiences. It can be therapy of some kind by externalizing and bringing out those experiences from inside our minds and bodies to outside of them. Sharing stories is crucial for social connections, to strengthen them and foster trust. We are social creatures, and social bonds increase our chances of survival. Telling stories also allows a sense of empowerment over how we are perceived by others. Because as we all well know, other people will cast their judgments on us based on their own perceptions. And by telling our stories, we can take more control over the narrative of how we are perceived. Today, we tell our stories through social media, through blogs, or just by simply shouting in the streets. We still want to control the narrative of how we are seen to others. This is why social media is so powerful, because it presents a unique opportunity for the average person to show the world a version of themselves. Just like those paintings of ancient Egypt, the pharaoh smiting his enemy, he wants to depict himself as a strong leader. He wouldn't show when he failed a conquest, would he? Status is another reason for wanting to use paint to decorate. Painting pottery, for example, in certain patterns or colors, indicated certain villages and certain status. Status is important as we are social creatures, and status means a better quality of life in terms of evolution. Using certain rare paints and pigments, like for example ancient times, Blue was made from grinding lapis lazuli, and the rarity of that made it expensive and therefore could only be afforded by the wealthy. So why is status important? From an evolutionary point of view, those at the top of the social ladder are afforded a better choice of food, shelter, protection, and mates, which increases chances of survival. However, once a certain point of survival is met, it isn't then important to every single human to keep trying to increase status and show it off. But for those people whose status is important, they would indicate it through external adornment. Personal expression is another human motivator for wanting to cover things in pattern and color and form. This can relate to the other points we've already mentioned, but sometimes using paint and color is a completely personal endeavor, especially when it's just for ourselves and it's not meant to be viewed by others. Painting is one way of dealing with our everyday lives, to explore, create something new, and sometimes just to have fun. If you enjoy this exploration into the human drive to create, like, share, and subscribe. And together, let's keep uncovering the beautiful and complex story of what it means to be human.